Birds of Prey is the 8th film of the DCEU. Just to run down my quick feelings of these films so far, I actually enjoyed Man of Steel, and to an extent, I like Batman v Superman. Hold on, I know, but it's bad, but I like it, okay? Okay? Suicide Squad is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Wonder Woman was a decent return to form, but Justice League was the most embarrassing thing since, like, Lil Wayne dropped a rock album. A lot of people like Aquaman, but I kind of found it to be the equivalent of eating a 2-pound bag of Sour Patch Kids. Halfway through, your taste buds die, your tongue starts bleeding, and your brain just starts melting out of your ear a little bit. But surprisingly enough, I loved Shazam. I feel like it's the closest we've come to recapturing that energy and cheesiness, like that perfect blend we got in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Yes, I'm including Spider-Man 3. Now we get to Birds of Prey, the standalone Harley Quinn movie that nobody asked for. This is basically a sequel to Suicide Squad, which, as I mentioned briefly, is cruel and unusual punishment to sit through. I thought the trailers looked absolutely horrendous for this movie, but it actually got some like mixed to positive reviews. It has like an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the Metacritic score and the average rating on Rotten Tomatoes is much lower than that. Please keep that in mind. Technically, a movie with 100% could have a bunch of 3 out of 5 ratings, so just saying. So now that I've seen this movie, this is a pretty cringy and stupid movie, but isn't that what the movie's going for? The film is narrated by Harley Quinn, and it's all over the place, but that insanity is kind of what makes it original, and it fits since it's coming from this maniac herself. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a great movie. I don't even think it's a good movie. It's pretty messy, but it's kind of a total blast to watch. It's like a really colorful, glorious mess. Speaking of which, the colors, lots of colors here. Vibrant colors, lots of colors.
Lots of colors. Everything
on the screen pops, it looks wonderful. And there's even a sequence where Harley Quinn is like shooting paint bullets at these cops, and it like explodes into like beaming colors, and it looks wonderful. It looks really cool. Speaking of which, the action sequences, they're pretty good. Supposedly the director of John Wick assisted with some of these action sequences, and it definitely shows. Also, I still don't like the character of Harley Quinn at all. I find Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn to be so obnoxious, and I really can't stand her, but there's no denying that she completely embodies this character. She is dripping ooze in that Harley Quinn. And that's not meant to be in a weird, creepy way. She's in the best possible, least creepy way. She's oozing Harley Quinn.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Why don't you take a seat right over there?
So even though the performance was not for me at all, she killed it. Some of the other character highlights for me, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress. I adored this character. She has this like sense of awkwardness and like dorkiness that makes her stick out from the other characters in the movie, and it's really funny, and it's it's pretty cool. They tried to give her a backstory, and it's pretty rushed and not very good, but when she gets time to shine at the end, she eats up the screen. Also, this is more of a middle of the road than a positive, but Ewan McGregor as Roman Sionis, as an adaptation of Black Mask, this is a total and utter disgrace. But as a completely different, goofy, wacky, bonkers character, Ewan completely dominates. There isn't a whole lot to his character, he's pretty one-dimensional, but Ewan is having so much fun with this movie, and he makes the best out of what he's got. He does a lot of like woos, and the energy he has, to use that word I like, that ooze, and he's got that However, there's one scene that they include to try to make him more menacing, and it is so gross and like unnecessary, and it just makes him look really misogynistic. And I get that he's a villain, but like, this just went too far. Especially for a character that's as goofy as he was before. They They didn't need it at all. Let's move on from there to the other villain of the movie, Victor Zsasz. He's kind of a B-rate villain, but I've always enjoyed that character. I always thought he was really intimidating with like the scars all over his body. He's a cool character to me, at least. But Victor Zsasz is completely destroyed in this movie. He is terrible. This is honestly one of the worst villain adaptations I've ever seen on the big screen. And we've had Poison Ivy, we've had Mr. Freeze. This is among those. It was not ice to see Victor Zsasz in this movie.
The Iceman cometh.
I don't know if it's the character or not, but he's almost completely bipolar. Like, there are some scenes where he's completely monotone and he looks visually like really bored and disinterested. Then there are some scenes where he's like acts like he's on crack and he's like purring like a cat. It's like, what are you doing? Like, what? This is Victor Zsasz? What? It's so bizarre, and if you read the comics, you're not gonna be happy at all. Also, while they're not nearly as bad as that monstrosity, the characterization of the other members of the Birds of Prey are pretty weak. They just don't have much to do, and we don't learn enough about them to really care about them in the later action sequences when we really need to be feeling the tension. We need to feel that neediness for them to like make it through the battle, but we never really get there because we're not given enough time with these characters. We care about Harley Quinn and Cassie Cain in the movie because they almost have this like mother-daughter bond that's actually kind of cute, even though I hear compared to the comics that's not at all what it's like. But in this movie I feel like that bond works, but we don't feel that sense of relating to them. We don't get that sense at all for the other characters. Speaking of which, this movie's called Birds of Prey. It should not be called Birds of Prey. This is a full-blown Harley Quinn movie with Birds of Prey in the last like 15 minutes. It's a total embarrassment to call this Birds of Prey. As I mentioned earlier, the plot is all over the place and makes several jumps in time throughout it. You know, part of me admires this insanity, as I said before, but the other part of me found this so annoying and disorganized and unnecessarily convoluted. It gave me PTSD of the worst moments of Suicide Squad. Along with these Suicide Squad flashbacks come the editing choices, which feel like they were from the same editors as Suicide Squad. Supposedly they're not the same editors, but it feels like they are. It feels like a 60-year-old man who works at Hot Topic and has like a real knack for like freeze framing and throwing a bunch of cringy, edgy stuff on the screen. Also, there are so many damn conveniences in this movie. And I know some people brush that stuff off as like nitpicking, but you know, it comes to a point in this movie where almost every 2 minutes we get a new convenience, and they're the craziest, like nonsensical conveniences possible. I get it. It's a Harley Quinn movie. It's not supposed to be taken too seriously, but outside of the narration, it's the real world, and they're trying to keep it grounded. So having all these conveniences just completely takes me out of the movie. Also, the ending of this movie is so... Not because the last action sequence isn't cool. They have a scene in a funhouse that's actually pretty entertaining. It's cool to see the team actually fighting together. But how some things resolve, it's so unsatisfying. I won't say anything, but... So overall, I had fun with this movie as a messy, stupid cringe fest. Parts of it pissed me off, parts of it annoyed me, but as a whole, I'm glad I saw it. If you like Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, there's a lot to love here. While I definitely had fun with this movie and would actually watch this again over Joker, it's not a good movie. It's a mess, but what a glorious, colorful mess it is. Say what you will about this movie, love it, hate it, you gotta applaud DC. You know, they're actually taking stylistic risks with their movies, and every one of their movies in recent memory has felt different from one another. I don't like Joker, but that was a nice change of pace that didn't have to take place in an extended universe. And Shazam was a really nice change of pace. And even Aquaman, I didn't like that, but that felt different from everything else. DC's taking all these stylistic risks that Marvel is failing to do at the moment. But they did get Sam Raimi.